Okay, how you guys doing there? Last video of the semester. We're reviewing for our exam. Exam is on Monday. Remember Monday? And I'm not sure exactly the time, but on the emails that I'm sending you every day this week, it tells you what time your exam is. Okay, and I have two Algebra 2 classes. You're both taking them at the same time. Okay, so anyhow, if you have already printed off the review sheet, great. If not, you might want to stop the video and then write down the questions, or if you can watch the video and look at the review sheet online at the same time, you can do that as well. Anyhow, the exam review has 16 questions on it. The review sheet has 16 questions. The test has 16 questions. Are these the test questions? No, they're not. You guys know that, but they're very similar. Okay, if it's on the review and you can do it, you'll be fine. If it's on the review and you don't know how to do it, you're going to struggle. Okay, so like usual, if you have questions, you can always email me, and I will help you out as best I can. So let's look at the review sheet. Let's work through these. Okay. Question number 1, it says solve using square roots, and you have to use square roots. If you solve it a different method and get the right answer, you're not going to get full credit, okay? So x squared is 25. This is a very simple one. It's also very simple and miss points on it, okay? Well, you got to use square roots. It even tells you use square roots. So we square root here, we square root here. These cancel each other. X equals radical 25 is 5. A lot of students will say 5 and be done with it. You're only half right, okay? You've got to remember to put the plus or minus symbol. So it's not 5, it's plus or minus 5. Okay? Don't forget that, okay? That's a real simple mistake. Simple to do, but also simple to make the mistake on, okay? Number 2, we have x minus 3 squared equals 16, I think it says. Okay, so we square root, and we square root. These cancel. We have x minus 3 equals, again, make sure you put the plus or minus. Plus or minus radical 16 is 4 or negative 4. Plus or minus 4, I'm going to write 4 or negative 4. Then we add 3, add 3, add 3. If we do that, we have x equals 4 plus 3 or negative 4 plus 3. So 7 or negative 1. Okay. Number 3, solve by factoring. X squared minus 8x equals negative 12. Well, if you're going to factor, it has to equal 0 first. So let's add 12 to each side. So we have no like terms here. Let's put them in the right order. X squared minus 8x plus 12 is 0. We factor this. X squared is x and x. Okay, we look at our last term. We ignore the middle term. We look at the last term. It's a positive. To make a positive, it's either a plus and a plus or a minus and a minus. Well, we know you need to get some negatives somehow, so it's going to be minus minus. And how do you times to 12 but add to 8? 6 and 2. What makes this 0? 6. What makes this 0? 2. So the answers are positive 6 and positive 2. Okay. Number 4. I'm not sure why, but every year this one gives some students some problems. I'm not really sure why. This one's actually much easier than the one we just did. Okay, it equals 0, that's good. And there actually is a common factor here. We could factor out an x out of both of these. I couldn't factor an x out back here because 12 had no x on it. So we take an x out, x times x minus x times 7. Okay, what makes this 0? 7. What makes x 0? 0 makes x 0. So the answers are 0 and 7. Number 5, simplify 3 plus 4i plus something. Negative 8 minus I. Okay, so we're just adding the real parts and we're adding the imaginary parts. 3 is real, negative 8 is real, 3 plus negative 8 is negative 5. 4i and negative 1i is a positive 3i. And that's it. Just adding the real parts and adding the imaginary parts. Number 6, this one looks similar, it's not. Okay, well, I mean, it has imaginary numbers in it, but so we have 4 plus 5i times, we're not adding, here we're adding, here we're timesing, 3 minus 2i. So we're going to FOIL. Okay, our first terms are 4 times 3, that's 12. Our outers are 4 times negative 2i. Watch your negatives, that's a negative 8i. My inners are 3 times 5i, that's 15i. And my lasts are 5i times negative 2i. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And be careful here, I times I is I squared. Okay? And remember, I squared, you've got to have this memorized. I is radical negative 1. I squared is negative 1. Okay? So I can put these two together. I have 12, 15, and negative 8 is positive 7i, minus 10 times I squared, which is negative 1. I squared is negative 1. So then negative 1 times negative 10 is a positive 10. So we can put together 12 and 10 and get 22 plus 7i. Okay? Let's look at number 7. Okay, find the zeros of the function. So 2x squared plus 50. F of x equals 2x squared plus 50. Multiplying the zeros, if you remember, set it equal to 0. 0 equals 2x squared plus 50. I can use square roots to solve this because there's only one x. So we subtract 50 to each side. 0 minus 50 is negative 50 equals 2x squared. We divide by 2. Negative 50 divided by 2 is negative 25. These 2's cancel. And then we square root. Okay? Remember, the square root of a negative is imaginary. Okay? Square root of that's what an imaginary number is. The square root of a negative. Okay? So that right there, radical 25 is 5. So radical negative 25 is 5i. Be careful though, I square rooted, so I gotta have plus or minus 5i. Okay? So it's 5i and negative 5i. Number 8. What value of c makes this expression a square? X squared minus 12x plus c. This one should be a quick one, okay? We're completing the square here. I want to know what would c have to be in order for that whole thing to be a square. We take this number right here, we do two things to it. We divide it by 2, and then we square it. That's your answer, okay? Half of 12 is 6, squared is 36, okay? Number 9. Halfway done. Solve by completing the square. X squared plus 6x plus 3 is 0. X squared plus 6x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, now, when you factor, it has to equal 0, okay? But when you complete the square, if you remember, you have all your x's left to be over here, and everything else needs to be on that side. So we need to get rid of that 3. So we do that. We have x squared plus 6x equals negative 3, 0 minus 3. And we complete the square here. We take 6, cut it in half, that's 3. Square 3, and that's 9. So we're going to add 9 here and add 9 here. Add 9 to both sides. This is now a square, so we write something squared. We always put x here, and then whatever comes next to this is half of that. Half plus 6 is plus 3. Negative 3 and 9 is 6. And then we need to solve it by square rooting. Square root here, square root here. These cancel, so we have x plus 3 equals, don't forget the plus or minus. Radical 6, that doesn't simplify. Some students, they get in a hurry, oh, square root of 6 is 3. No, it's not. 3 times 3 is not 6, okay? Last thing we have to do is get rid of the 3. Minus 3, so we have x equals, we usually put that in front, negative 3 plus or minus radical 6. So negative 3 plus radical 6, and negative 3 minus radical 6, okay? Number 10. Okay, solve using the quadratic formula. I will not give you the quadratic formula. That's one that you really need to memorize, okay? That's an important one, okay? Just like in geometry, the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's one you need to memorize. The formula for the volume of a pentagonal pyramid, you don't need to know that, but I mean something like a basic thing, you really need to know, okay? And the quadratic formula is one of them, okay? So the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that over 2a. So on number 10, we have x squared plus 6x plus 15 equals 0. And that's good that it equals 0. We want it to equal 0, okay? So a, b, and c, a is 1, b is 6, c is 15. So the opposite of b is negative 6 plus or minus b squared is 6 squared, which is 36, minus 4 times a times c, 1 times 15 is 15, over 2a, over 2 times 1. We multiply next, so negative 6 plus or minus 36 minus 4 times 15 is 60. 36 minus 60 is negative 24. And since we have a negative inside the radical, we're going to have imaginary answers here. Okay, so radical negative 24, that's the same as radical negative 1 times radical 24. And 24 is not a square, but there is a square that goes into it, 6 times. So radical negative 1 is I, radical 4 is 2, and I times 2 is 2I, radical 6. So negative 6 plus or minus, this simplifies to 2I, radical 6 over 2. And we can simplify just a little bit further. 2 goes into 6 and 2 goes to 2. Don't have 2 going into this 6 though, because this isn't a radical and this one isn't. So 2 goes into 6 3 times, plus or minus 2 goes into 2 1 time, so 1I or just I, radical 6. So negative 3 plus or minus I radical 6. Okay. Number 11. Okay. Number 11. Again, using the quadratic formula, negative 3x plus 2x squared minus 4. Okay, so it's got to equal 0. I'm going to make the left side 0, so I'm going to add 3x. So 0 equals, there are no like terms here. Make sure you put them in the right order. So 2x squared plus 3x minus 4. A, B, and C are 2, 3, and negative 4. So the opposite of B is negative 3. Plus or minus B squared is 9. Minus 4. A times C is 2 times negative 4, which is negative 8. Over 2a, so over 2 times 2, which is 4. Negative 3 plus or minus, we do negative 4 times negative 8, that's a positive 32. That's supposed to be a 32 there. And then 9 plus 32 is 41, which is not going to be imaginary. There's no negative there. And what square goes into 41 besides 1? Nothing. So you know what? You're done. Your two answers are negative 3 plus radical 41 over 4, and negative 3 minus radical 41 over 4. Number 12. What is the discriminant? And then it says describe the solution. So we have negative x squared plus 2x plus 12 equals 0. Okay, that equals 0. That's a good thing. Okay? So A, B, and C are negative 1, 2, and 12. Okay, remember the discriminant is this thing, b squared minus 4ac. So b squared is 2 squared, which is 4. Minus 4 times a times c is negative 1 times 12, which is negative 12. Negative 4 times negative 12 is positive 48. 4 plus 48 is 52. So the discriminant is 52. What does that tell you about the solutions? There are two real solutions. I don't know what they are, but there are two real solutions. And the reason is because that is positive. If that was negative, there'd be two imaginary solutions, okay? If it was 0, there'd be one real. Got to have that memorized, okay? If it's positive, there's two real solutions. If it's negative, there's two imaginary solutions. If it's 0, there's one real solution. Okay? And just so you understand, these are very similar questions. What I'm getting at is this. Number 12 on the review, for example, will be very similar. Does that mean it's going to be two real answers, just different? No. I mean, I don't know. The answers could be totally different, but it's going to be the same type of question. It's going to be find the discriminant and describe it. Okay? So don't memorize answers thinking it's going to be the same answers, just different numbers. That's not the case. Okay, let's do a couple tougher ones. Y equals x squared plus x plus 1. And y equals negative x plus 4. Okay, solving this system. Okay? If y equals this and y equals that, this equals that. So x squared plus x plus 1 equals negative x plus 4. This is a quadratic, so it should equal 0. So I'm going to make this side 0 by adding x, subtracting 4. If I do that, that all cancels. We have x squared plus 2x minus 3. And that does factor, and the one on the test will factor also. So x squared is x and x. Last term's negative, so plus and minus. And how do you times to get negative 3, but add to positive 2, positive 3, and negative 1. So my answers are x equals negative 3 makes 0, and positive 1. You're not done though. You're not done. You got to find out what your y values are. You do that by plugging them into either equation. I'm going to use this one right here. If I plug in negative 3 for x, negative 3 for x, negative 3 is 3 plus 4 is 7. Plug in 1 for x, negative 1 plus 4 is 3. So the answers are negative 3, 7, and 1 comma 3. Okay? Don't forget to find x and y. Okay, 3 more to go. Okay, this one's actually a quicker one. And you should know this is the line and this is the parabola. It's the points where the line and the parabola touch. Number 14, this is not a parabola, this is a circle. You don't necessarily have to know that though. And this one's easy because you already know, I mean, this is the line y equals 4, but it also tells you the value that y is 4. This is easy, but this is also, careful, you don't want to mess up on this one. We know y is 4, so plug that in. X squared plus 4 squared is 16 is 25. Subtract 16 to each side, you have x squared is 25 minus 16, which is 9. Square root it, x equals square root of 9, which is 3. Okay? Again, be careful. Don't make the mistake of what I just did. And I did that on purpose, okay? It's not 3. It's plus or minus 3. Don't forget the plus or minus symbol, okay? So the answers are 3, 4, and negative 3, 4. Okay? 2 more to go. 15. You got to get this one right. This one's an easy one. Y equals absolute, or not absolute, is bigger than x squared minus 3. I just want a very quick rough graph, okay? This is a parabola, down 3, opening upward. It is a dotted parabola, okay? If there's a line under it, it'd be a solid parabola. And it says y is greater than, y is greater above. If it was less than, it would be below. So you just shade in everything above that. Again, if there was a solid line there, it would be a solid parabola, okay? That one's an easy one. You can't miss that one, guys. Okay, last one. Solve algebraically. So we have x squared, that's 10x plus 9, is less than 0. Okay, we want 0 on one side, and we have 0 on one side, so that's a good thing. Let's factor this thing. X squared is x and x. There's no negatives anywhere, so plus plus. How do you times to 9 and add to? Some students struggle with that. That's actually a pretty easy one. To times to 9 and add to 10 is 1 and 9. Okay, so my critical values are -1 and -9. That makes 0, but I don't want 0. I want when it's less than 0. Okay, so which means I want it to be negative. So if you remember, we make a little number line. Make sure you put them in the right spots. -9 goes over here. -9 is to the left of -1. Okay, if I plug in a number to the right of -1, like a million plus 1 is positive, a million plus 9 is positive, a positive times a positive is a positive. And if I told you guys already that these things flip-flop, so it's plus, minus, plus. They don't always flip. They flip-flop in this class. But when you get into higher level math, they'll have problems that are a little more difficult, and they won't necessarily flip-flop. So for right now, if you just want to do that, that's fine. Less than 0 means negative, so we care about this. We're talking about numbers between -9 and -1. So your answer is -9, it's less than x, it's less than -1. And that's it, okay? You can watch this video several times, review, before you take the test. Again, test is next Wednesday, or not next Wednesday, next Monday, the 14th. Check the time. Don't forget it, okay? Show your work. Show your work. If it says in the emails, if you submit, if you just said, for example, number 14 and the answer is this, no work. Number 16, the answer is this, no work. It's wrong, okay? Even if it's right, it's wrong. You've got to show your work, okay? And it's to your benefit anyhow, because you guys know that I give up partial credit for wrong answers, okay? Don't forget the test, okay? Several people the last test, they forgot about it. I said, I'll let you make it up one time, okay? Not anymore, okay? This is an exam. It's got to be done during this time period, okay? If you turn it in 5 hours late, it's a 0. It's got to be turned in on time, okay? If you have any questions, email me. Keep studying, okay? Talk to you later.